Well, hello, folks. Uh, I'm going to need you to have an open mind on this because this confession time, I need to tell you the truth about these dog men or dog man or whatever you call them. I'll tell you what happened to me when I was a young teenager, about 15 years old. I was first woken up in the middle of the night by an uncle, and this is a long time ago, folks. I'm an old man. But he had a cup in his hand, told me to drink it. Wake me up, it was midnight or somewhere around there. And I, like a fool, I trusted the man. I mean, I love my uncle. Um, so I drank. It was awful. It was foul. It was nasty. And next thing I know, I mean, it couldn't have been seconds. I was out. I mean, passed out. And when I come to, I don't know how long it was. When I come to, I was in the forest and there was a circle of people around me. They were dressed in robes. They had masks on, weird looking masks. They was chanting some strange something, and then I heard these heavy footfalls coming our way in the woods. And I got to looking over there, and there was the biggest, tallest wolf man, dog man thing come walk right in that circle. And I was laying down, and I was kind of a tall, lanky kid, but still, when you're laying down and looking up at something like that, uh, it looks 12, 15 feet tall, but it could have been more than, I don't know, eight and a half, nine, somewhere. It was big. Thinking back with my mature mind, it was probably weighing in 700 pounds, 600 at least. Big burly thing, and he didn't do nothing. Little old growl, looking around, looked down at me, sniffed me a little bit, and then one of the men went over there to him and had this sharp knife and flicked it on the dog man's hand, took a few drops of his blood. The dog man sneered at him, growled, I mean, deep growl. I could feel it in my chest. And then turned around, and with them heavy footfalls, he walked off. Then they mixed something in there with that dog man blood, and Lord of mercy, had me drink it again. And I was out like a light, scared to death. Didn't know what was going on. I thought it was all a dream. I thought, the devil was sending me, some kind of weird vision or something. I was 15, folks. Southern boy, growed up in Oklahoma, going to church every Sunday. I didn't know what was going on. I just thought it was the devil or something, you know, and I was scared to death. I hadn't I hadn't become a believer yet, hadn't been baptized, nothing like that. But, that old preacher of mine would just pound on that pulpit and wave his arms around, scare me to death about hell and, even looking at a girl, send you straight to hell. And so I was scared to death about the whole thing. I woke up in my bed. Obviously, it's morning time, sun's out, you know, it's Sunday morning. And I just shook my head. I couldn't believe what was going on. So I went on about my business, for months and months. And then um, family was poor and I was an older kid. At least I had a strong back so I could go work these handyman jobs, doing mowing people's lawns. And one old boy, older man, farmer, had some oil wells on his property and lots of cattle. He needs some help, and he was a friend of my father's. Um, who had left the family, about a year before, and but so he knew we was all hurting for money, and so he come over there, said he had a lot of work, so I moved some wood around for him. I worked in his barn, rearranging the hay, and we hauled some hay in from the field. You talk about hot, sweaty work. I mean, it was hard. I worked all day. I knew he was a rich man because he got all that oil on his land, and so he told me to, he'd getting about sundown, and he said you put in a good day. I mean, my goodness, we started at 7 o'clock in the morning. He said you put in a good day. Mama's got supper. You go in and clean up in the bathroom. Just take your boots off before you come in, and go in and clean up best you can. Come to the supper table. And so so I do just that. I finished everything up, went in, washed up best I could. Of course, I was smelling to high heaven. I've been out there sweating all day, and nothing I could do about that. And I was shocked when I went in that house. I'm talking about, it was just a regular farmhouse and everything from the outside. She had some pretty roses out and all that kind of thing, stark contrast to, these fields and cattle and pigs and sheep and stuff all around. Uh, but when you walked in that house, it was nice and cool, number one, and everything in there was just as fancy. It was like walking into a beautiful museum. I mean, it was the most beautiful house I'd ever been in. Antiques everywhere, beautiful pictures and curtains and flowers, and I mean, I was afraid to even step on the floor in the rugs, even my dirty socks. But I asked where the bathroom was, went in there. I was scared to death. She had these beautiful soaps, and I was scared to death to use any of them beautiful towels. These pink, flowery towels, and But I mean, I had to wipe myself off after I washed up. Couldn't go in there dripping wet. And oh my goodness, it smells so good in there. I don't know what she was cooking, but I was salivating like a rough old dog. I mean, it smelled so good. I was in heaven. So I go to the table and they said, "Please come on, sit down." And there was roast beef, there was fried chicken, mashed potatoes, fried okra, cornbread. She had a tall glass of milk out, tall glass of water. There was soda. I mean, I was in heaven. He said, "Don't hold back. Just go ahead and dig in. We don't pray or nothing. You just go ahead and eat." And I was used to praying before the meal, but I was starving and all that good food there. I was eating it up. And I was embarrassed because I had three big old pieces of that corn. That was the best cornbread I ever had in my life. And the lady kept chuckling at me because I was stuffing my face. They'd ask me all kinds of questions, and they'd have to wait 5 minutes for me to chaw down the food and swallow it, And I was just saying yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, sir, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he said, "I got one after you're done. I got one." He said, "Don't worry about the dishes. Mom will take care of it. You going out to the barn, and then in the far back left, there's a storeroom back there. I need you to get me a bag of dog food out of there for the dogs in the morning." I said, "Yes, sir. I'll get right on that. Bring it up to the porch." And so I go walking out there just I mean, I'm full. I'm relaxed. I said to myself, "I'm gonna sleep like a baby tonight after all that work and that good meal." So I go back to that. It's a room inside the barn, real big, heavy, reinforced room. It looked like, what I mean, I didn't know a word for it back then. It looked like what we would call a panic room. Like if a tornado was to come, you get in there and you'd be just fine. I mean, the door on it was at least 5 inches thick, probably six. And there was metal slats across it, and it wasn't just hard oak. It was reinforced. I mean, I thought, does he keep? I mean, he just keeps dog food in this. I mean, he keeps his gold or silver or whatever, and money or whatever in there. So the door was slightly open. I pulled it to. I mean, there's some heft to it. I was a strong old boy. There was some heft to that door. I pulled the door open, went in there, and sure enough, there was 4 or 5 bags of dog food, and so I grabbed one of them, turned to go out and go to the porch, and there he was looking at me, smiling, and he slammed that door shut. I heard the big lock snap, you know. There I was locked. He turned the lights off. I don't like the dark. I mean, I don't think anybody does. I mean, I wasn't deathly afraid of it, but I was like, Mr. Johnson, what's going on? He said, you just stay here, and I'll be back in the morning. I about lost my mind. He wanted me to stay in that storeroom, whatever it was, all night. You know, didn't even have a pee bucket, and I don't know why, because I don't have no anger management problem, but I was mad. I threw that dog food down. And I don't cuss, but I said a few, the S words and the H words, and banging on the door, and then something come over me. Started seeing red, started trembling. Uh, I don't know what happened to me, but I started changing physically. Changing. I looked at my hands and they were getting bigger and longer, and my arms were bulging out, and I'm telling you, folks, in just a few minutes, that anger had just burst in me and changed me, and I was all hairy and big. I didn't know what I was. I thought the devil come inside me and possess. I could still think. My hearing and vision, I could see just as plain as day, like the lights was on in there, and uh, I just lost it. I didn't know what I was freaking out in my head, uh, and I hit that door twice, and it plumb come off the hinges. I mean, the strength that must have took, I don't know. I don't, I can't even imagine. But anyway, I tore out of there, was gonna head home, but as I got out the barn, there he was standing on his porch steps with a shotgun aimed at me. And of course I jinked and he shot, and it hit where I wasn't. And then I went out, I mean, I saw red again. This man trying to kill me, you know? And so I leapt up in the air. I'm telling you folks, I must have jumped 20 feet, and I snapped that man up, and I could see the fear in his eye. He lost his gun. He lost his, bowels. I'm afraid to say something like that. But anyway, he laying there under my hand on his throat, and his wife come out, nice lady. I turned to her. She said, "Please don't kill him." So I let the old man go, grabbed up that shotgun and threw it way. I mean, I threw it like it was a small stick. Threw it, 100 yards or something away out in the woods, and then tore out for home. You know, and running like the wind. I don't know how fast I was going, but I bet you it was 35, 45 miles an hour. I was running faster than his truck took me there. I mean, I was flying. I calmed down on the run back. It was only 4 or 5 miles, and before you know it, changed right back to a teenage boy before I got home. Thank God. Can you imagine if my mama saw me like that, or one of my brothers and sisters? And so I go in the house butt naked because I guess I'd tore off all my clothes. Nothing on, so I went in the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen towel, covered my private parts up. Went in the bathroom, cleaned up because I was all dirty. Took a shower and wrapped a towel around me and went and got some clothes on. Here it was, you know, I was supposed to be at school. Mama was gone to work. All the kids were gone. Thank goodness. Nobody saw me. And I had the most awful experience of my life. And ever since then, if I get mad, I change. The moon don't have nothing to do with it. Um, I don't, at least it's never bothered me. I've never met anybody like me. And I did a lot of research. Come to find out, my uncle, my dad, that old mean man that I was working for, all of them part of some Freemason, satanic cult, something or other, that knew these dogmen existed and they knew how to change people, but you had to have special blood for it to work. I wondered why, some 3 or 4 months before all that happened, why uh, they took me over to a hospital and had my blood typed. And just so happens I'm O negative. And evidently that's the oldest blood type in the world. And Lord of mercy, I didn't know that. And they call me a recurrence. I don't know what that is, but evidently it's somebody that can, I guess, utilize the O negative DNA, which is supposedly, and this is all hearsay because I don't think anybody got proof of it, but that's the blood type that Jesus had because they tested it off the Shroud of Turin, if you're familiar with that. Some people say that they found the Ark of the Covenant up underneath Golgotha where he was crucified, and there was blood on that. It leaked down in there. Now that's a kind of sketchy story, but it come from pretty credible sources. But at least the Shroud of Turin blood was O negative, so it's heavenly blood. So evidently, Genesis chapter 6 talks about these angels, these fallen angels, these bad angels come down and they laid with women, human women, and had kids, and those kids came to be Nephilim, these big giant people. And some of them, they're stories, ancient stories, going back thousands of years. Some of them are able to turn into wolves. You can read it in the Book of Giants. Matter of fact, one of their leaders had that ability. So evidently I come from going way back. I mean, way back in Noah times, way back in Genesis. I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. I don't know the biblical timeline, but it's a long time ago. And the blood type has been weakened, but some people get enough of it that you become a recurrence. And if you do these ceremonies, drink this horrible, evil, nasty blood or whatever, you become a dog man, or have the ability to. Now, thank God, it wasn't many years later I became a believer. Thank you, Jesus, and so I have lots and lots of control. God has changed me. I used to be so strong. Folks, you wouldn't believe me. Now, there's records going way back, and even film's probably destroyed by now, of me playing football, being a defensive end, and hitting the tailback as he's running around and knocking him through the air. And it's on film, 12, 15 yards, caving his side in. Poor guy had to be taken off by an ambulance. That's how much speed and strength I had. You know, I wasn't aware of that. Well, the coach was excited. He was happy. He's like, boy, we're going to win every game with this crazy man. And I quit. I almost killed that young man. Broke three of his ribs. He couldn't breathe for the longest time. I thought he was going to die. I took my helmet off and walked off the field. I said, Coach, I ain't playing no more. Before that, a week before that, we was in the gym. I was a sophomore, people, and I was outlifting the seniors, big old seniors, 6.5 feet, almost 300 pounds, these tackles and whatnot. And, they were benching 300 pounds like it was nothing. And, or they'd max out. Back then all we had was them like slap machines and a few free weights, nothing much really in that gym. We was a poor school, but I'd have two of the guys stand on the bars, put the 300 pounds on, and these were only about 150-pound guys, and I would bench press that, you know, it like 500 pounds, and everybody was just shocked. Thank goodness nobody took a video. Of course, no, back then, in the late 70s, nobody had, camcorders and whatnot, very much. But anyway, and I set some records, on like the discus throw and some stuff like that. But like I saying, uh, once I got saved, all that supernatural strength, even in human form, went away. I mean, it was a conversion experience. I mean, I went around telling people because I was down on it was a Sunday night. The youth minister was preaching. He was an athlete, and he would just kind of interim working at that Baptist seminary down there in Dallas, and he'd drive up and see us in there in southern Oklahoma on Sundays. And I liked him. And he wasn't but a track guy. He was a runner, so he was skinny, but boy, he could fly. I was the only one that could stay close to him, but he still beat me. I mean, he was fast. He was real fast, and so I had a lot of respect for him, because he was an athlete like that, I guess. And I was a young boy, and I admired that. And well, anyway, he started talking about Jesus in a real way, and he wasn't using the preacher words like the preacher did on Sunday. I mean, I liked the preacher, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. He laid the gospel out plain and simple, and told us what sin was, and it don't matter if you hadn't robbed a bank or killed somebody, you're still sinning, even if it's just in your mind. And so I realized it was right. He went through, the Ten Commandments and all that stuff. And I'd been stealing and, not nothing big, but you know how kids are. But anyway, so I knew I was guilty and I confessed. And, I asked Jesus to save me. And the top of that church is the biggest Baptist church in the town. Of course, there's only two there, a little town. It seemed like the roof of it rolled away, and there Jesus was standing, uh, standing, and recognizing me, in this vision. So I went around the school and the church and everywhere telling people how I got saved in this vision and whatnot. And my youth minister called me and he said, John, you can't. People don't have conversion experiences like that. Normal people. He said you can't tell people that. I said, all right, whatever. Yeah, but that's what happened. You know, and I think because of that, maybe that the evil part of that DNA was fixed, changed, something. Bible says you become a new creature. When you get some Jesus in you, and so that's basically the story. Now, folks, I have never changed but one other time, but I'm going to save that for another time because I was in the military and it was a big firefight, and my buddies were getting my buddies were getting shot, and I got mad, and it was a bad scene for the enemy anyway. Thank God there was no video, but nobody would talk to me, and they kicked me out of the military. I was in the Marines and I loved it because I just went on a killing spree. It was horrible. Maybe I'll work up the gumption someday, tell that story before I pass on. Well, folks, I don't know what dogmen are, if there's other types or whatever, but I guess I'm one type. And maybe there's werewolves. Maybe I'm a werewolf. Maybe there's you know dogmen that stay dogmen all the time. I don't know. Or they're dogmen from other dimensions, or who knows what. But I just thought I'd share now that I'm getting old. I hope y'all have a good night. God bless.